And yeah, we've been following you guys on Instagram for quite a while, and it seems like you got a new fighter announcement like 2 times a week. You guys are rolling through them, so it's pretty cool. So how do you? I'm curious, like, what's the process for finding fighters to sponsor? I know you said when you first started, you picked up a couple of guys from your gym that you train at, but obviously we live in weird times, and travel and events are all sort of, a little bit different than they used to be. So do you rely pretty heavily on the internet to find people that you're looking to sponsor, or do you have fighters reaching out to you? I'm curious how that process works.
It's both. We do have a section on our website where anyone can submit to be a sponsored athlete. So there's a couple things that we look at in terms of criteria. I try to find any video that I can on anyone that submits. I'll usually reply to them actually via email and be like, can you send me YouTube links? I'll look at their Tapology page and see, what their record is, who they fought. And then also just kind of have a back and forth conversation of, what their goals are and what kind of following they have. Not that that's really that important at the regional level, but I just like to know that, our athletes are, taking it seriously, and they're not just kind of showing up kind of half-assed. And they, people that want to do well in this sport typically find through one way or another a very large following, whether they're trying to or not, just because most people that they're close to will see how much time they put into it. So the amount of time that you put in, I think, directly correlates into the amount of people that will eventually follow you and want you to succeed. So that, I think, is a big factor as well. So when people reach out, that's kind of the things that we look at. And then when I'm reaching out to people, I started with just honestly going to the different states in Tapology and going through the top 100 fighters and researching each one and being like, okay, this is someone I want to work with. And then I would drag and drop their name into a spreadsheet. And then Alex and I would just run it like, any business that, you have a sales team. And I would be the person that was running sales for us. And I'd, reach out, I'd market that I reached out on this date. And then if they didn't get back to me, I'd reach out again. And we ran our entire business through Instagram. As true, millennials would. It's, pretty much just Instagram DMs. Here's a sample of a store that we made for someone. Here's what we can offer you. Here's what we're looking at from you. Would you like to work together? And then the conversation kind of goes from there.
Nice. Yeah. Seems like a really smart approach to me. You guys built yourself your own little CRM system in a spreadsheet. That's really cool.
Yeah. We've transferred up to the big boys. We use HubSpot now, so
nice.
We're actually in a CRM and running it the way that it should be running it. It's much more efficient for everyone involved.
Very cool, man. So would you be able to kind of just divulge a little bit on like what's the relationship between you and the fighter? Like, what do you guys? Obviously, I'm in marketing, so I kind of understand like the relationship a little bit, but you guys get exposure by being represented through the different fight, the regional events and things like that. But what is the fighter getting out of the relationship with you guys? Is it, besides just having this awesome, number one, these awesome logos created for them, but is that theirs to keep forever once you guys design it for them? Can they use it wherever they like, even if they're not working for you anymore? And I guess, just expanding on that.
Yeah. When I originally reach out to someone, going back, I noticed that everybody's first question was, how much will this cost? Right? Fighters are so used to saying, I need 100 shirts. And then the screen printer says, all right, you're going to need to pay me $750. And then the fighter is out that money until they sell the shirts for whatever they sell them for.
Right.
And we've never taken $1 from a fighter, except for any fighters who want to put that bulk order in, like put in a wholesale order for themselves. So we don't ask for any money up front. We pay every fighter for every piece of merchandise that they sell, whether it's a hat, a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a sweatshirt. We have margins built in, and the fighter gets paid more than we get paid for everything that we sell. So they're getting paid out every Sunday by us. On top of that, we're also quickly realizing and have realized in the past couple of months that while we are a merchandise company, we have the legs to be a very powerful branding machine for these regional fighters, in the sense that we're creating them custom graphics for their shirts. We're creating them social media content all the time, right? We have a very strict social media calendar where We do in the wilds of their fans wearing the shirts, and we do, pictures with them for upcoming fights, and we do, like you've seen, interviews with them. So not only are they getting the exposure through those social media graphics, but they're also then getting real world experience in terms of interviews that they can take and refine how they act and operate on camera, so that when they move up through the ranks, their first interview, on camera isn't at a Bellator event or isn't at, a UFC, that they've been comfortable on camera 5, 6, 7, 8 times with me to know what their persona is going to be when they're on camera, whether it is truly who they are or if they want to be like a Conor McGregor. And it's not my job to tell them one way or the other. It's for them to figure that out, but we give them the tools to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that, obviously Reese and I had talked primarily about UFC on our show, and that's primarily what we follow. But that's some of the stuff you don't really think about when you see these guys on TV. Obviously, I mean, Reese, you and I have talked at length about how this works, how this world works, and you've got to have the personality, you've got to have the hype behind you to get some of the bigger fights. You got to be the biggest shit talker in the room sometimes. So you don't think about that kind of stuff, about developing your brand and your persona. You got like Colby Covington and Conor McGregor and Chael Sonnen and all these guys that have built up those reputations. But that's probably something they practiced and actually honed in on. They didn't just like come out like that one day, So that's really cool.
Some of them just have a knack for it. Like you can't really train what Conor does. That's kind of just nature, I feel like. And then you have Colby on the other hand, where it seems like very forced. But at the same token, it's like you can learn from Colby things not to do, probably. And I think there's so much value in what you just described to us, John, for these fighters, just kind of training them, making the brands for them. But, through those interviews, you make fans, right? So if they know what they're doing when the light's on them finally, and they can talk and not be nervous and, all that fun stuff, then it's probably going to turn into some, they're going to turn some fans, during some interviews. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and for every fighter that we sign, we gain, an exponential number of followers on our own page. And, our fighters, they each have their own audience, but we're, almost as a byproduct, building our own following without focusing so much on going out and reaching potential clients of our own. Because for each fighter, like I said, they bring in their own following and our numbers grow. So it's not like we're, out there having to run targeted ads at MMA fans or at, 20 to 35-year-old men who watch UFC. None of that plays into our marketing plan. It all comes back to how much content can we put out for these fighters to make sure that their brands are seen by the most amount of people.
Yeah, definitely.